Hello everyone, welcome back to the shop and the Iron Oak. As I was wrapping up the trunk, I was then notified that the Mission San Antonio, the site where this tree is going, is ready for the foundation and concrete. Now, do you remember how there's two plates, right, that are identical to each other? Well, the top one I strengthened with those tree rings that we forged together, right? Well, the bottom side will never be seen by human eyes ever again. Now, the first thing I had to do was to weld all the bolts up from underneath so they're poking straight up once I bring the tree in for installation. Now, the grid helps so much because suddenly a 3/8 plate is now 5 inches thick. You know, theoretically, really. Now, after I welded in the bolts, and before I did really anything else, I wanted to make darn sure that all of those bolts lined up perfectly so I don't get any wicked surprises upon install day. Now, you can't just attach a steel plate to concrete. It won't hold. It needs something to tie into. So that's when I threw in some 3/4 inch rebar. After I welded in the rebar vertically, I was then able to heat up with my torch, heat up some elbows that I can bend out at 90 degrees to tie into the rest of the foundation so that it's not going anywhere ever. Then it was time to go out on site. Mission San Antonio is such a beautiful place. The rolling hills, this is also during the super bloom, so the tapestry of colors were just so inspiring. It's a huge honor to place a piece of my work, modern work, on something so historical. Now this tree is going to be installed in this beautiful courtyard where there's a fountain, and when it came to orientation, I had to remember which direction this tree is gonna be oriented at. So I made sure I wanted the knot pointing the direction that I wanted to be seen first. So what we did was we suspended this probably 300-pound base with a couple boards. We bolted it all up, got it level, just perfectly plumb, tied it into rebar on several levels, and it got it ready for pour. There's a particular moment when concrete trucks are coming in because now the timeline is on. Someone on the tabletop has flipped the hourglass and now the clock is ticking. And of course, I'm going over every note that I ever jotted down or second guessing myself on every measurement possible because once it's in, it's there forever. Now, when you pump concrete into a void, there's air pockets that are just always developed. Now, it's very important and just entirely crucial to vibrate, to let all that concrete settle in place so that you're not creating any voids, any air pockets into the whole structure itself. $12,000 pounds of concrete might seem like a lot, but when you're talking about 5,000 pounds of iron tree on top, it's a lot of leverage. You need quite a footing to make sure it's properly stable. Once the concrete truck goes away and the pump truck goes away, then it's time to get the trowels out and you start shaping the footing to what you want. There's a beautiful radius that is being built, and then you got to fill it up and smooth everything around that wonderful 3/8 plate with the framework up underneath it. It takes very little time for the concrete to set to where you're able to start pulling forms off and really troweling everything out, smoothing everything up. When you move a trowel over concrete, it begins to sweat a very fine, almost slurry, and you're able to just get this almost flawless texture on top. And then at last, you come over it with a brush and then give this beautiful finish. Now I was able to work with the concrete plant to give the concrete a little bit of color, so it's not just some dull gray. I got a beautiful kind of buckskin tan from it. It's gonna be beautiful. Took great lengths to make sure there was no concrete on the steel plate, but also especially on the threaded bolts that are poking up. Because you don't want to fight with concrete that is now dry on those bolt holes when you're suspending a 5,000 pound tree trying to get threads to line up. You know what I mean? The whole reason that we're doing this is to commemorate the donors that helped retrofit this place. It was a disaster after a great earthquake that hit my area not very long ago. And they've been working tirelessly to rebuild it back to its almost original state. Mission San Antonio is iconically California, especially my area out here in the Central Coast, where you have just mountain ranges, rolling hills, and with scrub brush and groves of oak trees and just wildflowers. It is so gorgeous out here, and I hope you visit and see this tree once it's finished. Now that that concrete's curing on site in the bright sunlight, it's time to get back into the shop and start building the limbs for this tree. Now comes the exciting part, where it becomes a tree. Thank you all so much for watching all these parts and sticking with me on this project. And just, I feel like we're able to do it together, and I love reading your comments and feedback. It's really a light of my day. And as always, my friends, thank you for watching.